Hello everyone. Today we're going to be looking at verbs. Verbs come in various forms and they also have tense. So we'll be covering that and we'll be looking at the general use of verbs in our English language. Verbs come in three basic forms. There's doing or action verbs, there's having verbs and being verbs. The most common is the doing or action verb, where the verb describes some sort of an action or a thing that's taking place. Every sentence has a verb in it, even though it may only be a one-word sentence. That one word will be a verb, because a sentence can't be a sentence without a verb. The enormous tree crashed down as the wild storm lashed the mountain. I want you to try and identify any verbs that you can see in that sentence. I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about that. Okay, well, if you identified the words crashed and lashed as the verbs in that sentence, you would be correct. If you, however, identified enormous or wild, then they are what we call adjectives, and they are describing words. They are not action words or verbs. As you can see, there are two other types of verbs besides action or doing words. They are having words and being words, and there's a list of them on your screen at the moment. We're going to have a look at a sentence in a moment that doesn't contain any action words, but it contains having words and being words. See if you can identify them for me. Tom has a fantastic new skateboard that is red and white. See if you can identify the verbs in that sentence for me. Okay, well, there are two verbs in that sentence. They are has and is. Once again, we had some adjectives in the sentence which were fantastic and red and white. They are not verbs, they are describing words. Okay, well, the next part of the lesson is where we start to talk about tense, T-E-N-S-E, and that refers to when the action occurred in a sentence. So the first example I've given you here is what we call past tense, and that's where the action or the verb refers to something that's occurred in the past. The example I've given is Tom rode his cool skateboard home from school. I want you to see if you can identify the verb in that sentence for me. Okay, well, the verb in that sentence is rode, and it's a past tense version of the verb to ride. It's past tense because it happened in the past. Okay, we can see here that there are three types of tenses. There's the past tense, which we just discussed, things that happened in the past. There's also the present tense, where actions occur right now, and the future tense, which refers to things that are going to happen in the future. Okay, the first sentence is in present tense because it's occurring right now. Tom is riding his cool skateboard home now. The verb in that sentence is what we call a compound verb because it's made up of two parts. The verb is riding. Two parts to that verb. The second sentence is in future tense. Tom will ride his cool skateboard home tomorrow. The verb in that sentence is also a compound verb because it's made up of two words. The verb is will ride, and that's in future tense. Okay, well, the last activity we'll be doing today is we're going to look at the two sentences that are on the screen at the moment, and I want you to identify the verbs in both the sentences. As well as identify the verbs, I want you to be able to tell me or write down what tense those verbs are in, whether they're in past tense, present tense, or future tense. Remember that some verbs are what we call compound verbs because they're made up of more than one word. So I'm going to give you a few seconds now to go through those sentences, identify the verbs, and then identify whether or not they are in past, present, or future tense. Okay, let's have a look at the first sentence. Tom rode his super cool skateboard home and then he did his homework. Okay, the two verbs in that sentence, the first one is rode. It's an action word, an action verb, and it is in the past tense. The second verb is did, and that's a doing verb, and it's also in the past tense. In the second sentence, Tom will play on his skateboard after he has finished his homework. Tom will play. Will play is the verb, the first verb in the sentence, and it refers to the future tense because it's going to happen in the future. And it's a compound verb, which means it's made up of two parts, will play. The second verb in the sentence is finished, has finished, has finished. It's also a compound verb, and it is referring to the past tense. Well, that's all we have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed or learnt a little bit more about verbs than you did before.